3rd, 1998. And today's presentation will be on signs and wonders. Now I got to have a promise from you all before I start, that I'm going to hand out some books. And you can't go ahead of the presentation. You have to stay in sync with me. Okay? Can you promise to do that with me? Because it'd be easy to start flipping pages and going through it, and you'll be at the back of the presentation, I'll just be halfway through it. And maybe you'll leave. I don't want you to leave. Okay? But first of all, I want to ask the Lord to bless this event, our seminar this morning. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Lord, we ask for your blessing this morning upon this. I ask for the Holy Spirit to move upon us this morning. As I share this message, Lord, as you touch each one of us this morning, we ask for Jesus Christ to be lifted up and glorified this morning. We ask it in his name. Amen. Amen. Well, without further ado, today, I'll start again. I wanted to tell you, this is the first time I've ever done a high-tech presentation. Now, when you get into high-tech, there's a problem with high-tech. If it goes kaflooey, you got a problem. Little story before I start here. I was at a software convention a few weeks ago in Orlando, and everybody is going paperless, and we're all doing everything electronically, which is a marvelous thing to do, except for one Marine in the back said, nope, we're still using books. Held up a book. And everybody was aghast to hear such a comment, but everybody's going computers and all that, and he holds up a book. And the instructor says, well, what's your problem with going into the electronic age? He says, this is the only thing that'll work with a bullet in it. Meaning that in the field, under combat situations, a computer will not function when it gets hit with a round, but a book will still work. So today, I ask for the Lord's blessing upon this high-tech stuff, that it does work like it's supposed to. I also want to give a little commercial to BBI, Brickville Incorporated, for letting me use their video projector this morning to make this presentation partly successful. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to pass out some books.
Is there going to be a test?
The Lord's going to give you a test. Now you can't go forward. Now you got to stay with me. No peeking. It's like one of those tests that.
Yeah, so we can even open it. Close book test.
And you turn it around and see the back.
Nah, don't get it.
One for you. Take home with you, okay?
Go.
Go on, first page.
You didn't tell us that. You have to visit the same as the last cover. Didn't learn anything more.
And open it to the first page. Okay. Now, this is booting itself right now, so just be patient. And you know what to do with the keys. Okay, first key, first slide. The presentation this morning is called Signs and Wonders, and it's by me and at the St. Michael Academy of Eschatology. Before we get into signs and wonders, I want to ask you, this sign right here, did anybody encounter a sign on the way in this morning? Can anybody name a sign? A stop sign? A traffic light? So those are signs, aren't they? Now, what if you would violate that sign? What would be the penalty if you violated that sign? Sometimes nothing can happen. You could get away with it, maybe. But sometimes there may be a police officer in the area, and he may arrest you or stop you for a traffic violation. Or you may cause an accident and somebody may die because of a violation of a sign. So when you see when I talk about signs and wonders this morning, the sign, now that text 4591 comes out of the Strong's Concordance, so you can go look that up yourself. And the Greek word is semeno, and the definition is to indicate a mark. And so when you come up against a traffic sign, it's an indication, and it's a mark for you. It's a point of reference, and it tells you about something. Now, next slide. A wonder. The Greek word is teras. And its definition is a prodigy or an omen. And also you can find that in the Strong's Concordance under this 5059 number. Sign is more physical, but a wonder is more spiritual. As we see as we get deeper into this presentation, you're going to see that, yes, a traffic sign is something, right? It's physical, you see it. But now when you get into a wonder, something else more than physical kicks in. Let's look at Moses for a moment. Signs and wonders, the 10 signs of Moses. Did not he bring upon Egypt these 10 plagues? Were they signs and wonders? Remember when the water was turned to blood? The purpose of those 10 signs. Why did God bring those 10 plagues upon Egypt? Give me some input here.
Give them to listen.
Well, it looked like there was judgment coming down on that nation. All Moses wanted to do, under God's direction, was take the nation out into the desert and do sacrifice and worship unto the Lord. They were going to come back. But Pharaoh, his heart was hardened. And he said no. And every time he said no, God, through Moses and Aaron, brought a plague upon the land. Except, an interesting thing, the plague did not touch the children of Israel. The Hebrews were not touched. Only the Egyptians were touched. So there was a divine protection. So you see, that sign and wonders, as this slide represents here, there's a snake right there. And if you remember the story in the scripture, when Moses or Aaron cast the rod down and it turned into a snake, and of course the Pharaoh's court, they did the same thing, but then Moses' staff consumed those other snakes. So God's not ever outdone. God is preeminent. Here's some scripture. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be great earthquakes in various places, and famines and pestilence, and there will be fearful sights and great signs from heaven. Now, if your word sign did not print out in your text, write it in. Because you see it's red, done in red here, so the red will come through on the slide. But you notice here, we see the Statue of Liberty, and we see an atomic explosion, and we see some kind of tumult going on the world. And that's a sign. There'll be great earthquakes in various places, famines and pestilence, fearful sights. Are you ready for these things?
Interesting picture, by the way.
For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show signs and wonders. We're going to see physical signs and spiritual wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. You notice this cartoon here, it shows this person being a mark. There's 666 on this guy's patch right here. You see the mark of the beast being implanted in this person's forehead. In this slide here, we see the person putting her hand on the scanner and they're checking her ID to make sure that she is a legal entity in that system, in that world system that is coming to visit us someday. So even the enemy can produce signs and wonders to bring deception. Another sign. Mene, mene, tekel upharsin. This is from Daniel chapter 5. And we see a picture here of Belshazzar and Daniel. And he's pointing to the wall. Now you say, well, what's all this mean? Well, Belshazzar's father's name was Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar took the nation of Israel into captivity. And when he did that, he also took all the gold and all the furnishings from the temple and took them to Babylon. Now, Nebuchadnezzar died, and his son took over the kingdom. And so one night, Belshazzar had a party. And they were imbibing and drink and all that was going on in that kingdom. And he says, go get all those beautiful gold furnishings out of the temple and bring them out, and we'll drink wine from all the vessels that were used for a consecrated holy purpose in the worship of God. And they were being used by heathens. And so then a hand appears and writes on the wall this text. And nobody, not the satraps or the sorcerers or any of the prophets of Babylon, could interpret this sign. Then they called upon Daniel. They found out that Daniel had the ability to discern this sign. And here is your explanation. God has numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Thou art weighed in the balance and found wanting. Thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. And so when Daniel told this to Belshazzar, immediately he put him on a beautiful robe and gold around his neck and celebrated that only Daniel could make the understanding to him of that sign, of that wonder that appeared. But that night also he died, and Darius took over the kingdom.
Who died?
Belshazzar died. God took his life. Now see, his father Nebuchadnezzar also was lifted up in pride, and God made him act like an oxen and put him in the field to eat the food of the grazing food, until a certain time would go by and God put him back in place again. So you can see the sovereignty and omnipotence of our God to have this kind of control or command over his creation. Anybody who exalts himself above God is in deep trouble. If it don't get to you immediately, it will get to you eventually. God is a just God, and a merciful God. But in this case, because of what Belshazzar had done with the holy worship objects of the temple, his life ended. And it was given to another king. So that's another sign. Now, today we're going to talk about outer space. We're going to talk about asteroids or meteorites. We're going to talk about satellites. And I don't know if you have ever heard of this, the Leonids. Has anybody ever heard of that? Well, we're going to learn about it today. The Leonids are a result of the passage of the Earth through the path of the debris cloud of the comet Tempel-Tuttle. The meteor activity associated with the comet Tempel-Tuttle is called a Leonid event because the meteors appear to be coming from the direction of the constellation Leo. There is evidence that this comet has created meteor showers and meteor storms for more than 1,000 years. Tempel-Tuttle, named after Ernest Temple and Boris Tuttle, who first discovered the comet in 1865 and in 1866, is about 4 kilometers in diameter and orbits the sun with a period of just over 33 years. It makes its closest approach to the sun. It passes close to the Earth's orbit, not the Earth, but the Earth's orbit. The closest approach, called the perihelion, occurred this year on February 28, 1998. We're all not astronomers and astrophysics and all that stuff, so I try to keep this simple here from my mind. Next slide. So when this Leonid occurred, this is what it would look like in certain regions of the world. A starburst, a descending of meteorites over the Earth. Now, because they would fall to us, our atmosphere would protect us. There's no damage to the Earth because they're only about the size of a grain of sand, maybe a little larger. But we don't have to worry about a disaster from the Leonid Meteor Shower. But it will give us a beautiful and tremendous display. Now this happened back in 65 and 66 of this year, of this century. But it now will happen again this year and in next year because of the way the geometry of our solar system is made. To explain how this happens, I got a couple of graphs I want to show you. Our sun, our Earth. You know the Earth goes around the sun. And what we see here is a comet's orbit. It's going in this manner. Next slide. Another slide to show you. As the comet Tempel-Tuttle comes through our solar system and exits, it leaves this cloud of debris. Now you notice the Earth is going around the sun like it's supposed to. Now remember, the sun's moving too. So this whole thing is in dynamic arrangement, moving through the universe. But here we have the Earth coming through the debris trail from this comet. All these particles. The Earth is going through it. The Leonids are not coming to us. We are going through the Leonids.
you said the sun is in orbit too?
Everything's moving. The sun is not stationary, it's moving. Our whole solar system's moving. Everything's dynamic, everything's moving. Nothing is stationary.
I've never heard of the sun orbiting around something.
It's, well, there's our galaxy, the Milky Way, all of this stuff is in a dynamic movement. Nothing is stationary in space. It's all moving.
In orbit.
It's in orbit around something. I'll do some more research on that, but I believe I'm correct on the sun's movement. It's not a stationary vessel. It's also in a dynamic path. Any questions? I saw another hand over there. In '65, the comet Tempel-Tuttle was rediscovered. Lost for nearly a century, the comet Tempel-Tuttle was rediscovered in 1965. Calculations would reveal that this comet passed closer to the Earth's orbit than on any occasion since 1833. On November 17, 1966, a tremendous storm of tens of thousands of Leonids fell for a short interval timed by sky watchers in the central and western United States. This display probably rivaled the historic showers of 1799 and 1833. Within just 2 hours, observed rates increased from about 40 per hour to as much as 40 per second. We saw a rain of meteors turn into a hail of meteors too numerous to count. The meteors were so intense that we were guessing how many could be seen in 1 second sweep of the observer's head. A rate of about 150,000 per hour was seen for about 20 minutes. That happened in 1965 and 66. Back to the charts. I like charts. I don't know, it just helps me a lot to see a chart. Showing the Sun, Mars, the orbit of Jupiter, an incoming Tempel-Tuttle coming through. Position of the Earth every November 17th is here. Passes through. Next slide. This is another cutaway showing on the top view. Incoming. There's the Earth. We're going to cross its path, the debris trail. We're not going to get hit by the comet. We're going through the debris trail of the comet, called the Leonid. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Meteors worry industry. Activity in 1998 and 1999 may be the worst of satellite era. This guy here, Bill Ayler, of the Aerospace Corporation, told a congressional subcommittee in Washington, May 21st, that the estimated 500 satellites on orbit would be sandblasted by the Leonid Meteor Storm due November 17th. Continuing, it is possible, Ayler told the subcommittee, that some satellites will be damaged, but the most likely source of damage will not be from a rock blasting a hole in the satellite, but rather from the creation of plasma or free electric charge on the spacecraft. The charge can cause damage to computers and other sensitive electronic circuits on board the spacecraft, and ultimately cause the spacecraft to fail. For example, it was said during the 1993 Leonid Meteor Shower, it was determined that the Olympus communication satellite was damaged by a meteor strike and went off air shortly thereafter as a result of an electrical failure. So we're not really worried about punching holes in the satellite. We're worried about when the satellites make contact with this debris trail, this plasma charge, to shut them down, as it was demonstrated in the first meteor shower. Continuing, I've got some more credible statements here from news services. Manhattan Beach, AP. In November, the Earth's atmosphere will be hit with the most severe meteor shower in 33 years. Remember that number. Bombardment of debris that could damage or destroy some of the nearly 500 satellites that provide worldwide communication, navigation, and weather watching. The Hubble Space Telescope, which suffered minor damage in the 93 shower, will be moved to protect itself against the Leonid damage by being turned away from the stream of particles, an option being considered by many satellite owners. Back in '66, when fewer than 100 satellites circled the Earth, the comet produced peak showers of 144,000 meteors each hour and no major damage. Remember that number, 144. Another, from CNN, the most severe meteor storm in 33 years will provide spectacular celestial light show, but the debris could damage or destroy satellites that help provide Earth's worldwide communication, navigation, weather forecasting. The same stuff here about 66 and 500. 93, the meteor struck the Olympus satellite again. Military satellites are better off because they are built to withstand a nuclear attack. But unlike the commercial counterparts, They cannot go off the air, said Edward Tagliaferri, a consultant with the nonprofit Aerospace Corporation. You can't shut down a military satellite. That report we saw a bit of from Bill Ayler. This was the conference that was called by the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Science on the 21st of '98. The hearing was on asteroids, perils, and opportunities. This is a real worry by the community. And most people are blind to what's coming. Samuel Taylor Coleridge was born in '72 and died in '34. He's the guy who wrote the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Water, water everywhere. Remember that? We all had to learn that in school. And they're thinking that in his poem here, the upper air burst into life, and 100 red fire flags sheen. To and fro they were hurried about, and to and fro and in and out the wan stars danced between. And the coming wind did roar more loud, and the sail did sigh like sedge. And the rain poured down from one black cloud, the moon was at its edge. He may have been inspired by the wind and storm in 1797 as he witnessed it. What about the Indians, American Indians? What do they think when they see such a celestial event? Well, the Blackfeet of Montana believed that the meteor was a sign that sickness would come to the tribe during the coming winter, or that a great chief had just died. The Havasu California tribe thought a meteor that started high and fell to the rise was an omen of sickness and death. The Kuya thought a meteor was the spirit of their first shaman, Takwich, who was disliked by his people. Takwich was said to wander the skies at night looking for people far from the tribe. When someone was found, he stole their spirit, and sometimes even the person took them back to his home and ate them. The Shawnee believed meteors were beings fleeing from the wrath of some adversary or from some anticipated danger. So you see, in this, the American Indians believed that what they saw was judgment, some omen, some bad thing that was going to happen. So, I've talked a little bit about the Leonids, the debris trail from the comet Temple Tuttle, and talked about a possible damage to our satellites. So I want to give you a little quick course on satellites. What is a satellite? This is a illustration showing a box, a couple receivers, a solar array. This is where they get their power. Signals will come in and go out from these panels, and inside are like little rocket motors that they can move it around. And it's full of electronic gear inside. Computers are stuffed in this thing. How do they get into space? Well, that's how we put them up. This is an expendable launch system, Delta III rocket made by Boeing. This shows you the configuration of it, nose cone. And there's rocket motors inside of this made by Pratt & Whitney, the RO-10s. And then here are some solid boosters that help lift it into orbit. And when it gets into space, you see this top stage here, the ends break off, and out comes the satellite. It's got little motors that push it out away from the spacecraft. This will probably fall back to space and be consumed in the re-entry. Now you see the solar panels have been deployed. It's out in orbit. Once it gets into orbit, you see here a picture of the Earth, and here's the satellite going around. Now, I didn't know this, but a satellite in a high geostationary orbit circles the Earth once every 24 hours. The same amount of time that it takes the Earth to spin on its axis. The satellite turns eastward like our Earth along the equator. It stays about the same point on the Earth all the time. To maintain the same rotational period as the Earth, a satellite in geostationary orbit must be 22,237 miles above the Earth. I don't know if you ever thought about how high the satellites are in the Earth, up above the Earth, but that's the number. The average number, 22,237. Think about how far that is. How far is it from here to Connecticut? 1,600 miles? What do you think? That's a long distance. Look at that. So we stick these satellites way out. 22,237 away from the Earth. Now they're not in an environment that's friendly. So, what do we use them for? Communication, navigation, weather, environmental monitoring, manned platforms, and even defense. Let's talk about the satellite's environment. First of all, they have to survive the vibration and shock during liftoff. I've never been launched into space by a rocket, but I can imagine it's pretty terrifying. The tremendous vibration and shock during that process. Once they get up, they're in a vacuum. There's no atmosphere for protection. They're way out there, hanging out there, 22,237 miles out. Also, they have to survive space debris, traveling at 17,000 miles per hour average. There's no gravity, there's nothing to slow the particles down. As they're coming through, if they make contact, that's about the contact speed. Also, they have to survive the extreme temperatures around the Earth, where they can see plus 250 when the sun's out and minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit when they go behind. And also, radiation. Basic satellite operation. Once we put them up, they're used. There's the solar panels. These are the antennas. They communicate back and forth from the Earth's surface or to other spacecraft. See the communication with ships on the ground. Kind of shows you how they're used. Next slide. There's another picture, a little more colorful, showing a satellite up and it's beaming a signal down to this station. Or it can beam over here and they can shoot it down over here. Or they can use an optical link over to this one, down to this ground base. So you can see that the satellites are used very extensively in our world today, much more than they were in 1965 and 1966. Galaxy 4, where are you? I don't know if you remember this. Death of one satellite puts millions out of touch. On May 20th, 1998, Galaxy 4, a $250 million satellite owned by Pan Am Sat, failed Tuesday evening above central USA. Problems rippled throughout the country. I don't know if you remember that or not. But I believe the Lord is showing us through this one event of a possibility repeat scenario coming up this November. 90%, because of that one satellite leaving its orbit, 90% of the nation's 45 million pages were lost service. Soybean and corn prices were unavailable, which tied directly to the economy. 5,400 of the 7,700 Chevron pay-and-pump services halted. You use your little credit card to slam it in that little reader and pull it out. It didn't work. 30 to 50 patients awaiting liver and kidney lung transplants through the Mayo Clinic had to have their pages reconfigured because they're waiting for transplants, which are vital for their survival. And doctors lost contact with hospitals. They could not, the doctors could not. See, when you're in a hospital situation, the nurse doesn't have the authority to prescribe or do anything. They need the doctor. The doctor has to give them the go-ahead to do anything to a patient. And they couldn't reach him. So they had to resort to the old method of hot telephones instead of the pager. Now, Galaxy 4 occupied a key position over the central United States. We have, I said in the early part of this presentation, we have 500 satellites around the Earth. 44 of them occupy a position over the United States. And about the central United States, this G4 satellite pulled out, leaving a gap. And they saw the result. We are more dependent on this technology than we have ever imagined. Analyst Jeff Kagan of Kagan Telecom Consortium said. So, we have a hole in the sky now, right? In the satellite belt. We need to replace the satellite. So we get a new rocket called the Delta III, which I showed you a slide of. They send it off on August 27th, but it explodes in a fireball. A Boeing-built Delta III rocket carrying a U.S. communication satellite exploded in a $225 million fireball Wednesday soon after blasting off from Cape Canaveral on its maiden flight. They used to use the Delta II rocket. This was its maiden flight. Riding in the rocket's nose cone was a Pan Am Sat Galaxy 10 communication satellite. West-West and beam television channels to cable operators across the United States, and it had other capabilities. The failure of Pan Am Sat satellite in May, G4, crippled pager service throughout the United States for 7 days. And remember now, this satellite, G10, was going up to replace G4. So we couldn't do that. You know what the delay was? 18-month delay now on getting another satellite back in that slot. What's the big worry? Our satellite survived the last Leonid Meteor Shower in '66, right? Things have changed since '66. In '66, we had almost 100 satellites circling the Earth. In '98, we have 500, of which 44 are over the United States. The potential for damage or destruction of these fragile satellites has been greatly compounded. Our dependence on this technology has been deeply embedded. I want you to remember that word, embedded, in our daily life. Think about what you do during the day, what's not related to a satellite hanging out there 22,237 miles out in orbit. What could be affected? Defense, economics, communication, navigation. Now I'll tell you, if you wipe that out, what have we got left? Pretty interesting. Now, I'm not a doomsday man up here trying to get everybody all worried about the future, but I believe God is giving us a sign. He's showing us something, and we believe we are in the last days, that we are moving into the last days. More signs and wonders are going to be upon us. Does not say in Scripture, look up, for your salvation draweth nigh. Defense now. First item of probably are of importance to us, to make sure we're not attacked by some hostile country. I found out that in Russia, the premier has a box at his possession that he can, by his own, launch a rocket, a missile. But also, as it comes up, I forget the name of it, as it launches up, it communicates to other satellites, other rockets, and more multiple launches occur. Now, and remember, he has a drinking problem.
Might hit the wrong button.
You might think it's room service.
That's right.
What a wake-up call that would be. But in case there was a nuclear attack on Russia, they wouldn't have to worry about a big network pulled together to get another retaliatory launch off. They could go to that plan. One button push, they've got this technology in place. Now, if their military satellites all of a sudden go offline because of the Leonid Meteor Shower, what would you think? You say, we're being attacked. So what would be the most extreme response? Next slide. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying that's an extreme response to a military satellite going offline. A nuclear exchange. On a less excitable note, communications are affected. Your ATM card may have a problem working in this little device. Airplanes who depend on GPS and navigation, global positioning, and also cruise ships and other maritime items may have a problem navigating and knowing where they are if they lose satellites. Next slide. This is a constellation called Leo. And we see that Leonids are called the Leonid because they proceed from the constellation Leo. This is a diagram of the constellation Leo. Next slide. This is a zoom in of that. This shows the meteor stream coming through Leo. Now, maybe you're all interested in when and where they can be seen. Remember, in '66, they were seen over the United States. Well, in '98 and '99, you had to take a trip. All those slightly enhanced meteor showers activity was evident in '96, '97. The impressive meteor showers were most likely in '98 and '99. Predicted time of observing, Leonid shower peak, '98, November 17th. 1943 hours, 200 to 5,000 per hour. They don't know exactly how many. Best viewing would be Japan and Asia. So we're on the wrong side of the Earth. In '99 and November 18th, same amount. They can't really pin it down, but it's going to be a tremendous amount. Europe and North Africa will have the the best viewing point. Now doing some more reading, and on the west coast of the United States, we'll be able to see some of the meteor activity. But over here on the east coast, we probably won't see too much. And so it's like things are happening and you're not knowing what's going on. It's like invisible to you. But while you're asleep at night, the Earth is traveling through this meteor stream, and all of our fragile, vulnerable satellites are being either knocked offline or maybe not. So we don't know what's going to happen. All we know is that this event is going to happen. And we've never been in this kind of position before in all of our time. Technology has exploded in the last few years. Since '66, we started launching satellites, until '98 now, when we have 500 hanging around out there that we depend on for almost every moment of our day. There's some usage of a satellite next to us.